Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve.
And I'm Nerdarchy Ted. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain. All right, so let's look at character creation when survival is the setting.
Under the Dome isn't your standard swords and sorcery setting. It's a post-apocalyptic grit meets bioalchemical weirdness. Think Mad Max with magic, gladiators with sponsors, and trike racing through gang-infested chaos. The cities under domes are the last refuge for an outside world broken by chaos magic. Survival isn't just the flavor, it's the whole menu. Water is rationed, food grows underground. The surface, it's full of gang wars, flesh warpers, and wolverine hunting expeditions gone sideways. Players don't build heroes here, they build survivors. You can find links to weekly articles at nerdarchy.com by Nerdarchy Ted. That is included down in description. He's over there writing about Under the Dome and many other things.
Yeah, so every Monday night is Under the Dome, or every Monday. It depends upon what time I get a chance to post it. So, all right, let's look at, in a survival-focused settings like Under the Dome, character creation shortcuts get exposed fast. Shallow quirks and vague backstories collapse under real pressure. When food runs out, gang fights erupt, or something in the sewer start whispering your name. Traits that seem cool at character creation often mean nothing if they don't help the group endure. The world doesn't ask, is this character interesting? It asks, are they useful? Gritty high-stakes play reward functions over flair, and forces players to ground their choices in consequence. The setting doesn't care whether your characters say they are, it shows us what they actually do.
The grind dealer's bargain. Everyone wants something. Under the Dome, but at what cost? If your character hasn't traded morality for momentum at least once, are they even in the game? What is it your character wants?
It really depends upon what you're playing and what you're doing. Dave is running an Under the Dome game at one of our offline games, and my character's playing a sorcerer. And I'm a Simic hybrid. I am absolutely 100% a magical experiment. And I toyed with all kinds of background options, and I throw out there all the time, like, oh yeah, the dude that experimented on me, he basically bragged numerous times that he killed me and brought me back to life. Now, when I wrote it, I didn't write it with any kind of certainty one way or the other. It was just something that was told to him. But as the game grew on, and my character as a sorcerer faced a lot of things and managed to somehow eke by and survive in a very brutal world, I'm like, yeah, I think it's true. I think he really did die and has been going on. And Dave is weeded seemed in this backstory into the story quite well by basically the thing that created and tormented me has kind of been a nemesis and is going to be one of like the final bosses of the campaign. It's been a lot of fun. So my character has always been like, all right, I need more power. What can I do to become stronger so that I can bring this guy down and finally be rid of him? And one of the things that we found is like a super powerful artifact. And once we found it, we realized there's no way to take it out of where it is without absolute destruction of everything around. And yet I know, I'm like, all right, I still want it. I try not to just like shove it down everyone's throat every single session, but I feel like it's something that my character contemplates whenever we get a moment's rest. Like there'll be a look off in the direction towards that bog of eternal acid, be like, I wonder. And now that I've gained more power, I could technically be like, all right, what if I just teleported, grabbed the thing, teleported back? Could that work?
Maybe.
How long would I have?
What your character wants doesn't have to be that grandiose, right?
Sure.
They could want power, they could want fame, they could want fortune, they could want love, right? They could want a sense of belonging. Maybe they didn't have much of a family life, so what they want is a found family, and the adventuring party fulfills that for them. It could be small things that they're looking for. Maybe they like to cook, and they just want to have people to cook for, right? Like you can steal a little bit from Delicious in Dungeon and build that type of character who one of the things they really love about adventuring and traveling with the party is they've always got a captive audience to cook for, right? It could be that simple. But defining something that your character wants is going to be helpful for defining the rest of your character, to making them feel more real. And also you have to look at the setting you're playing and the world you're playing in and seeing how these pieces all fit together. I mean, you don't have to, but I feel like it helps ground you to the world, which is going to make for a stronger character in the long term. And also so that you don't end up with a character who they start getting the things that they want and then they feel kind of empty and you're kind of like, well, what are we doing here? Do I even want to play this character anymore? All of a sudden they've kind of become boring for you.
I want this should be so that you can do the next thing. It shouldn't be, I want this to have this. It's an element. If you jump in the Wayback Machine, Doug ran a quest game where we were out exploring space, and it was very much a food-based adventure. My character wanted Excalibur, which is like the ultimate frying pan / magic weapon. And it was meant as kind of a funny thing. So when there was the talk of there being another season of this, I'm like, well, my character needs to have a new goal. So I had seen a cheese grater sword that, again, another product that exists in a real world. So I'm like, oh, now he's looking for an even greater weapon. It's something silly and stupid, but it was something that character goals help take the story and move it forward. Not everything needs to be a morality based give and take situation, but in Under the Dome, it absolutely has to be, because you're set in a situation where it's like, all right, it sometimes it's going to be you or me. I'm going to get it, or I'm going to live, or you're going to live. There's no way to go about this and leave peaceably, because it's just Mad Max survivalist type of situation. So sometimes you got to make those hard choices, and it's not always about combat. It could be what allies you choose. It could be whether you choose to take that powerful magic item away, whether you slay the guardians of some grove, not realizing that it belongs to some good guy druid. What do you do?
Do you become the guardian now?
The survivor's illusion. Just because they can swing a blade or hotwire a trike doesn't mean they're built to last. And Under the Dome, survival isn't just stats. It's a mindset. Scar tissue tells better stories than plot armor. Why does your character do what they do?
Trying to figure out what your character wants is one thing, but the other step of that is figuring out why do they want it? What is driving them to do that thing? They kind of go hand in hand, right? Once you have one, then you can figure out the other. And you can actually do this in any order. And it's just going to make for a more complete character. Why is your character driven to cook for others? Is it because they grew up lacking, so they don't want others to lack? And they lacked nourishment, now they need to see others nourished. And they also need the approval that brings. Or why is it they want found family? Is it for the same reason, similar reasons where they didn't have that, or maybe they had the opposite, they had a terrible family, and they're like, well, maybe if I have an active hand in this, I can make this better. And Ted, you used the example of Vel wanting power. He doesn't want power for power's sake. He wants power because he's terrified of his old mentor / tormentor / master coming back and just doing those same things to him. He wants to be able to stop him from doing that to himself and maybe from others as well.
It's a scenario that it's, again, the end goal in mind. It's easy enough to start off and say, okay, well, can you think small and build out? Now, when I threw out Vex, which is the name of this evil spellcaster, I had no idea whether Dave was planning to use it or not. I followed Dave's rules of just giving him just a little bit of information to decide what he was going to work with. And Dave threw out this character once that just showed up. And as the DM, Dave thought, oh, well, this is Ted's confrontational. He's going to try and nuke this guy. The players are going to jump in. We're going to have an urban encounter. The guy will be wiped off the face of the earth, maybe teleport away at the last minute, and maybe I'll use him again later. But it went the other way. I did a role-playing moment where I was terrified to start anything. And it sent into this whole spiraling, cataclysmic, long winding plot that changed him from a mild threat to a major threat because of the role-playing choice that I made. And that's the thing that players sometimes have the ability to do. The scars run deep on Vel. Dave allowed us in the last session to uncover backstory. So I literally took the time to be like, hey, anybody really feels like diving into this? Here are the 35 different experiments that were done to Vel over the course of however long it took, and this guy's notes, because we found them. We could access them. I'm like, this would be fun to look at. It was probably over the top, but I felt like it would be fun to dabble. So you have to think about, well, what does it mean when I make this character? And it doesn't necessarily have to completely fit your race or your class or your background. Your backstory is just another aspect of who your character is. And I know Dave loves building out the backstory as we play to connect it to things that are going on, or to take inspiration from the things that are going on to be like, oh, well, now I'm going to drop this nugget. Okay, well, let's work with that. And you can do the same thing. Develop who you're playing as you play, or come up with it all in advance with the ability to modify if you so desire. All of these ways perfectly fit and can get in there just so long as you're paying proper tribute to the setting that you're actually in. Characters have to be more than just the mechanics on the page. The choices that they make when they play and what they did in their backstory shape who they are and how they're going to make their choices in the future. So you definitely want to have some of this kind of figured out so that it's not just ink on a page.
Yeah, in one of our previous games, it was an Underdark game. My brother Ryan was playing this Oath of Vengeance paladin to one of our gods, the Beggar King, who is this broken god. People are always afraid of offending because instead he roams the mortal world as a beggar himself. The character he was playing was a drunk, and he was always angry at the deity that gave him his powers because he didn't really want them. And he was always found himself thrust into these situations to kind of do the bidding of the Beggar King. Part of his backstory was like terrible things happened to him that made him a drunk, right? But this deity sees more in him than just a drunk and uses him as a tool to accomplish things in the mortal realm, whether he likes it or not. And his character would begrudgingly kind of go along with these things, and he'd generally be kind of cranky and angry about it. But it made for an interesting character. And he also took the Knight variant background And he just had 3 degenerates that followed him around and mostly got in the way and underfoot, but also at the same time, like, because the Beggar King is kind of a deity for degenerates, and also this particular character, despite all of his gruffness and his foul-mouthedness and everything else and all these foils, he actually also had a soft spot for degenerates and people who were down on their luck. It kind of created this dichotomy in their personality, which made for an interesting character that was driven by things that were kind of external to them, but also it linked back to that scar tissue we mentioned on what made them kind of broken. Mutations are more than skin deep. Flesh warp, spell scarring, and even chaos blessings are not just power-ups, they're trauma, temptation, and identity crisis waiting to happen. Embrace the weird as consequence. How do these things affect your character? Or about like how your character develops and using the things in game, not just from your backstory and what you came up prior.
So sometimes you can be like, you've survived this encounter and you're going to get a feat, you're going to get a thing. But sometimes players just look at that as, oh, I got more powerful, I got something cool. They don't always think about, well, how did that affect them? When you take Shadow Touched as a feat, that means that you've crossed that line into the Shadowfell or have fought spectral undead like shadows, possibly to the point where your life was in jeopardy. That should in some way, shape, or form affect the choices that you make, the way your magic looks. Something about you needs to be aware of what has been done to you. I say the same thing with Fey Touched. Did you make a bad deal? Did you get tricked? Did you fall into magical slumber for 100 years? Whatever possible Fey shenaniganery that could have possibly happened, that's not just +1 stat and some new spells. That has to fall into trauma or temptation, or heck, as Dave says, identity crisis. Like, if you slept for 100 years in magical sleep, do you really know who you are? Do you remember all of your past? Did you make a deal and you've lost memories of what your backstory is? Is there somebody that you had a great relationship or a bad relationship with that all of those memories have been kind of cut out of your brain? The Fae can do all of that crap. So be careful.
I feel like you're just describing the Scarlet Sisterhood. To be honest with you.
There was some of that was definitely in Scarlet Sisterhood for sure, which is another great game here on the channel that Dave ran with a cast of wonderful folks. Yeah, if you're looking for I think it was like 66 or 69 sessions. If you're looking for some good times, go check that out. Let's hear it. When did your character totally fall apart under pressure? Maybe they froze in combat, flubbed a crucial role, or just couldn't handle the moral weight. What broke them? And did it make them better?
Got value out of this video? Hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss when we tackle the next great table topic.
And remember, flaws tell better stories than feats. So build bold, build broken. And as always, until next time,
Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.